I was sincerely heartbroken at the disintegrating relationship between Jayce and Viktor in season 2, and that surprised me because this story was fumbled at so many turns, I just about convinced myself it was unsalvageable. We're about to walk through the story of these two characters so I can show you what I saw in this climactic moment. But there's something you should know first. I was for the glorious evolution. Like, why not? Could be fun. So, if you've seen my last video, which is required viewing for all computer science classes at MIT, you may have walked away thinking that I am not a fan of pursuing technology that has the potential to be dangerous. But that's not true. I don't believe in avoiding knowledge or discovery. I believe in being critical of people who try to sell you fake technology, but being critical of people isn't the same as being skittish of the tech itself. When humanity receives a Pandora's box, I believe they should open it. If the fire harms people, stop the fire and protect the people. If no one can figure out how to use the fire in order to help people, contain it. But don't just not open the box. Knowledge can't hurt you. Only fear or greed can hurt you. So don't be scared or greedy. The storylines of Jayce, Echo, and Heimerdinger this season were very strange to me. Heimerdinger, as usual, is dead set against the development of technology that uses the arcane. He explicitly states a position that, frankly, I'd assumed he'd held all along.
I've seen miracles spring from the hands of mages many times, but so often they turn to horrors. I'd always presumed it was due to mankind's turbulent relationship with power. But perhaps it is a property of the arcane itself.
The arcane is inherently dangerous. Don't open that box. Whatever treasures might be inside aren't worth the suffering. This seems to be the position the show holds. But then, almost offhandedly, Echo just calls out the real problem.
The mesh is above ground, but we weren't sure what would happen if the gate overloaded, so we installed a failsafe at the base.
So instead of it exploding in your neighborhood, it would blow up in ours.
We're miles from the main fissures.
These are the same utility ducts that carry our water and facilitate our ventilation.
Yeah, he's right. The problem is that you just put a fucking nuclear reactor in the ground near the infrastructure that keeps the people of Zaun alive. It's not the inherent problem of the arcane. It's the disregard with which the high-minded socialites on top treat the safety and health of the people with less power. Discovery is a great thing. If splitting an atom was only done to generate enough energy to power every hospital in the world, I'd be all for it. The issue was that the fucks who did it turned it into a goddamn bomb. Knowledge and discovery are good. Hubris is a shallow concept made up by butthurt gods who don't want humans to be able to fend for themselves. Fuck you, gods. Give me the damn fire. I can cook me own empanadas. Humans need to look out for themselves and each other. That's one point for me supporting Viktor right off the bat, which had significant consequences for my experience with this season. Additionally, I'm like a ridiculously hardline fan for the Prince of Egypt. I guess it's sort of my trash. I like barefooted people with staffs humbly doing the work of serving the people and being willing to suffer for that conviction. It's my jam. I did a video about Tommy like 5 years ago. No one watched it. It wasn't very good, but I just have a real affinity for this trope. I have a sincere and potentially problematic love for the prophet with no ego whose connection to the sublime inspires tireless service to others. Again, Viktor is immediately very compelling to me. If you don't share my interests and opinions, you probably didn't see the ending the way I did. So, let's walk it back. By the end of the first season, Viktor is hyper-focused on helping individuals. He's essentially taking the Zaunite side of the argument posed by the first season. He argues that building weapons, getting involved in politics, dividing nations, none of that is the job of a scientist. He wants to make individuals' lives better. At this point, Jayce and Viktor have an uneasy agreement. It's clear that Jayce is conflicted about how to deal with the raw, violent potential of Hextech, while Viktor has determined unambiguously that it must be destroyed. Viktor was willing to die and allow for the deaths of thousands more who could have benefited from the Hex Core because of a single casualty, the death of Skye. Viktor is on the side of protecting individual people, even if it means turning away from huge grand ideas about how to help society forever. Jayce is effectively following along with Viktor's decision. He's giving in to Silco's demands, therefore choosing not to create Hextech weaponry, and, we assume, eventually shutting down the Hex Core, as he promised. Season 2 sees a full reversal of these roles. Jayce can't deal with the reality of his conviction to abandon the Hex Core. The pressure of the situation revealed his true priorities. He's going to save Viktor, no matter what. This recontextualizes the thematic argument between Jayce and Viktor. Now it isn't abandoning Hextech to protect the little people who will be displaced and killed by war. It's entirely about using whatever is at his disposal to maintain his relationship with Viktor. As Viktor would put it later, that which inspires us to our greatest good is also the cause of our greatest evil. It's that classic Arcane tragic irony. How can I stop protecting the ones I love when they begin causing harm to others? Viktor has also seen a, from my perspective, much messier evolution in reaction to facing death. It's hard to say exactly what he's going through, but in my opinion, he felt he had satisfactorily created the end of his own journey by accepting death in the end of the last season. Being brought back, seemingly to a kind of immortality, leaves him floundering in the shame of having caused Skye's death. In response, he commits himself fully to his original goals in the way he couldn't when he was connected to Jayce. Since he feels that Jayce betrayed him by saving his life with the Hex Core, he's able to extricate himself from Jayce and do his own thing. From there, he descends into the depths and gives away his own life essence to heal others. So, needless to say, I'm angry at Jayce. This man is constitutionally incapable of making an active decision without prodding, and now, after being steadfastly in Viktor's corner throughout the show, Jayce spawns an opinion of his own and turns against him when he undertakes an unambiguously good project. One of the most powerful scenes of this season for me is Viktor slowly and laboriously healing Vander at the expense of his own life. How can you possibly support someone who wants to end Viktor after this? Watching this develop, I couldn't untangle my distaste for Jayce's actions with how bad it felt to watch this relationship crumble. Jayce looks like a violent maniac, but the story keeps telling me that I'm rooting for him. The pain of being misunderstood that I was sharing with Viktor drew me in really effectively. But when he takes that sharp turn into one-dimensional supervillain territory, I felt like I was pushed out of the story, alienated from it. From here, Viktor quickly moves to the position that all suffering comes from conflict, and by assimilating all minds into one, conflict and suffering would disappear. First he says he will evolve all those willing, but then we get this aggressive bit of dialogue from Jayce.
This is your obsession. Everything you've done to these people, you did alone.
Which I'm assuming is there to bury the lead about how Jayce actually feels, to make it genuinely seem like he hates Viktor so our expectations can be subverted in the finale. Because what exactly has Viktor done wrong at this point? Does Jayce believe that he has been assimilating people by force? Are we supposed to believe that he's been assimilating people by force? Because that was very much not my impression. I was distinctly of the mind that people were coming to him for help and were willing to become mentally connected with him. Then we get our sharp turn into one-dimensional supervillain territory.
Allow us a moment of civility.
And I feel like I'm being gaslit by the story. Jayce wants to stop Viktor from getting to the anomaly, and Viktor tries to kill Jayce. Well, fuck. That's annoying. I became a Viktor stan because his beliefs don't allow for compromises. He wants to protect individuals, that's his whole thing. He puts people first by fighting back against the wild-eyed, progress-minded actions of intellectuals who see humans as a factor in their work, and not living beings who deserve care. And now, he's willing to kill his best friend, the man of progress himself, because he's standing in the way of Viktor's progress toward his own goals. Is this a logical progression? Believing in one thing so hard that you start just doing the exact opposite of the thing you believe in? I don't know. Maybe there's a more Viktor-like way of dealing with Jayce in this moment. A way that doesn't involve him talking like a supervillain. Maybe he offers to heal his leg with the intention of converting him once they make contact. He seems to be able to psychologically compel people. What if he manifested in Jayce's mind like a psychic? Or actually explained his accomplishments, or appealed to their friendship? Why would I want to see Viktor fight? I'm not invested in Viktor as being a badass fighter boy. And then we watch helplessly as Viktor throws in his lot with Ambessa. And then we see him forcibly evolving people in the finale. Now, we have to pause here, because this leap, Viktor going from helping people who were suffering to eliminate all struggle by homogenizing all brains into a single consciousness, is, to my mind, very fucking weird. My first reaction was that this was very vibe-based. Like, the writers assumed that all viewers would just be like, man, Viktor running a cult kind of thing. There's a kind of hive mind thing going on. Don't like that. That's creepy. He must be in his bad boy era. Villain now. Boo Viktor. Boo. Boo Viktor. And from my survey of the opinions most people had of the finale, that seems to be how most people took it. I'm creeped out. Must be Dark Viktor time. Fortunately for you, I'm here to needlessly complicate things. I don't like being placated by the spoken assuredness of stories. I'll decide if your character is an antagonist for myself, thank you. It's interesting to me that the story's compulsive need to tie everything up in a neat little bow is contradictory to the conclusion that Jayce comes to, that Viktor leads him to. Viktor tells Jayce that life was meaningless after every problem was solved. We call challenging questions problems for a reason. They cause distress, and solving the problem feels good because we're relieving ourselves of that distress. In a way, you really can say that Viktor is removing suffering by removing all conflict. But, like, there are ideological steps between here and there that we just never confront because of the aforementioned leap. Viktor has been called Jesus a lot, and that's true, but he ends the series as more of a Buddha figure. Life is suffering, suffering comes from desire. Buddha tells you to stop wanting by surrendering your ego. You and I and everything else are one mass of nothingness. There are no real distinctions in the world. Therefore, you don't lack for anything, and you also don't exist. You are an assortment of arbitrary boundaries. Let the boundaries go, and you will be infinite. Viktor goes from Jesus to Buddha over the course of less than a season. The earthy, material, physical care that he gives to people at the start of his season 2 journey is miles away from that Buddha bullshit I was just on. He touches people. He gives of his own body. When a person stands in front of him, they are the only thing that matters.
You once told me all systems have limits.
He is worth the risk.
It evokes images of the Eucharist, eating of the sacred body. I imagine blood and flesh and dust. This is a very physical, direct, tactile way for him to serve others. And Viktor remains this way until fucking Jayce breaks his body. He can't touch anymore. He can't heal. He can't even perceive the outside world the way he did when he was a human. Jayce drives him inside.
Well, look who's inside again.
Into the cold, into the dim, unfeeling void, into the ivory tower from which little people on the ground get crushed. Everything Viktor detests. Jayce makes him into this weird, metaphysical nightmare. If we could just literally dissolve the boundaries of all things, the world would be way better. Jayce does this. He is responsible for this. And he's responsible for all the death and misery that comes out of it. And you know what? I'm obsessed. Jesus Viktor is fun, but Buddha Viktor is a psychedelic death leap into the deepest trench of this show's belief system. It's this insane, unfettered, bold charge directly into the heart of what it even means to help a person. This is literary overkill. This is a conclusion to a problem I didn't even know we were talking about. Imagine you called a plumber to fix your toilet. Instead of a toolbox, they bring a set of surgical instruments, they cut you open, and they completely rewire your digestive tract so you never have to shit ever again. Like, it solves the problem. And it is more efficient than the solution I had in mind. But I am confused and traumatized. That's what this is. It just cuts down the center of Viktor's beliefs to critique the desire to alleviate suffering itself. It's wild, it's bizarre, it's unnecessary and distracting. I like it a lot. If I want to help people, then I must integrate all minds into a perfect unconscious singularity. Makes perfect sense. Okay, back to the story. Viktor has allied himself with Ambessa for confusing reasons, see above, and then Jayce swoops in and does a whole lot of talking to orient the viewer as to how the ultimate conflict pertains to the character relationship between the two.
You've always wanted to cure what you thought were weaknesses. Your leg. Your disease. But you were never broken, Viktor. There is beauty in imperfections. They made you who you are. An inseparable piece of everything I admired about you.
Now, this is annoying. I can understand wanting to integrate this radically different endgame version of Viktor into his season 1 journey, but having Jayce just tell us what that connection is just isn't working for me. If we're being honest, Season 1 Viktor's struggle was about his desire to make a great impact on the world before he dies. He's constantly thinking about how he's going to die because his body won't allow him to forget. In the end, he learns that his desire to achieve the great thing isn't worth the pain and distress he causes to others. That's his arc. This need to create a glorious evolution suggests that Viktor just forgot the thing he was supposed to have learned in Season 1. It's a contradiction I could have just put out of my mind until Jayce clumsily tries to stitch it all together here in the finale. Perfection wasn't the point, Jayce. He's not a self-conscious baby, man. He's a mortal, terrified of death and revolted by suffering. And this complete reversal of Jayce's goal in the second half of the season makes him annoying too. How on earth am I supposed to be in Jayce's corner when his most recent actions include devastating a peaceful commune, killing Sallow rather than just taking the stuff he was holding out of his hands, almost killing a child for no reason when he really should have learned not to kill children in the last season, actually causing the death of a child, again, killing his best friend's physical form, causing him to become Dark Buddha, and being a dogshit ex-boyfriend to Mel who deserves to be treated like the goddess she is. And then we get the big reveal that Jayce loved Viktor all along and was only pretending to hate him for the dramatic twist.
I thought I wanted us to give magic to the world. Now, all I want is my partner back.
Why do you persist? After everything I've done.
Because I promised you.
future vision.
Jayce, come on, man. Give me something. You do have to love Jayce, even while you also have to be endlessly frustrated with him. Just a big, silly, handsome golden retriever of a man loping around in traffic, doing whatever he was told to do by the last person he spoke to. You know how dogs get really excited when they notice you looking at them? That is Jayce in reaction to any bit of social, familial, or sexual attention. He doesn't know what he should be doing, but he knows he wants to be sitting in your lap right now. Sure, he's 200 pounds, but he's a lapdog in spirit. So, is the Viktor-Jayce dynamic in the last season a brilliant piece of tragic irony, or a frustrating patchwork of motivations the writers had a really hard time kneading into the ending they wanted? Para no los dos. I think the ending was envisioned long before their arcs were plotted. They were working backwards so that Jayce and Viktor die in a beautiful, intimate moment that resembles the first time they made Hextech work. I don't know why Jayce seems so viscerally repulsed by Viktor, other than to create a moment of pure happiness when he unexpectedly hugs him, and we learn the true depth of their bond. I don't know why the Arcane completely destroyed the other Viktor's world, proving that the Arcane is just innately volatile and should never interact with technology for any reason ever, other than to shortcut Viktor's final decision to move to Jayce's side so they can skip over all that argumentation and persuasion bullshit and get to that transcendent, romantic, masterfully animated death scene. And my god, it is so fucking beautiful. It's the morbid grandeur of Akira. It's the subtle humanity of Spirited Away. It's the majesty of Fantasia and the intensity of Avatar. I feel lucky to have seen this. I feel lucky that the medium of animation has reached a synthesis between art and movement that allows for such creative truth to be expressed like this. And it wasn't just the animators and storyboarders who had a real success here. As a writer, I
thought I could bring an end to the world's suffering, but when every equation was solved, all that remained were fields of dreamless solitude. There is no prize to perfection, only an end to pursuit. Only you can show me this.
It's amazing. It's poetic, it's tragic, it's evocative, it's lyrical, it's resonant. Again, it's artistically true. It just works. And it's acted to perfection, and it's scored to perfection, and it's all just so goddamn perfect. But, seeing all these seams in the fabric of this show leading up to this moment can make it a bit difficult to feel the full weight of this perfect ending. And perhaps that is my cross to bear. I'm having a hard time not seeing all the eraser shavings in the notebooks of the writers. Just chaos. They've abandoned typing it all out 2 months ago because there was just too much frantic squiggling taking place, the desperate need to cross things out, write in the margins, draw graphs, doodle shitty storyboards, and if you have to make a 20th copy of the same goddamn episode outline, you're gonna lose space in your Google Drive again, and someone in the vicinity is going to die. Not that I'm speaking from experience or anything. There are so many places where I feel like some line or action is shoved in to make the structure work. And it sucks, because if they just left out all the extra junk, I'd have made my own sense out of it. Don't hold my hand, your palms are sweaty. I could have cried at the revelation that Jayce's only independent decision in the whole story, the thing that kicked off the story in the first place, pioneering Hextech and committing his whole life to it, is just another instance of him doing whatever Viktor wants him to do. I'm not being sarcastic, I genuinely love this. It's so fucking good to see how fundamentally, how innately Jayce is just a sim for Viktor. Not that Viktor is mediocre. Like, sincerely, Mwah, bravissimo, grazie mille. The man will make an entirely new kind of science because Viktor prompts him to. Jayce will literally not do anything Viktor does not want. His one charge in life is being inspired to action by Viktor, and he's going to do it flawlessly. Good for him. I could have cried, but I didn't, because my brain was bleeding by that point. And I only realized how adorably in character that was after the fact. I think there's a lesson to writers in all this. It's okay to hold back on information. We're not watching a piece of art because we need to know how every detail of a person's backstory informs their motivation. We mainly want to understand why these motivations feel so profound to the characters so that we can empathize with them at the conclusions of their stories. So, instead of working backwards from the moment you envision as particularly impactful, maybe you can start by isolating that moment and unpacking how it works. If you understand the motivations, the drama will follow. And when all else fails, you can't go wrong by simply leaving something to the imagination. This video is brought to you by me. You're welcome. I think about stories a lot. Almost constantly. I'm not sure where I am right now. Point is, if you're writing a story and you need some help, you can hire me. I consult on screenplays, write serialized fiction, and yes, I write scripts for YouTube professionally. That's right, you're looking at a pro. Don't check my sub count. You can go to my website to check out my portfolio, read my reviews, look at my prices, and reach out for a chat about how I can help with your project.